The stars bent and twisted as reality itself tore open. 127 warships of the Kellery Dominion emerged from hyperspace like predators breaking through the surface of dark water. Their hulls were black and covered with sharp angles. Their weapons glowed with stored energy. They had crossed 3,000 light-years to reach this small corner of the galaxy, and they expected to find easy prey. Admiral Vorath stood at the center of his flagship's command bridge. He was tall for a Kalari, nearly 3 meters of scaled muscle and bone. His eyes were yellow and cold, like twin suns that had forgotten how to give warmth. Behind him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, monitoring the fleet systems and scanning the space ahead. "Report," Vorath commanded. His voice was deep and carried the weight of absolute authority. "We have arrived at the designated coordinates, Admiral," his second-in-command replied. Lieutenant Kress was younger and eager to prove herself. "The target system lies directly ahead. 9 planets orbiting a yellow main sequence star. The third planet shows the highest concentration of life signs." Vorath allowed himself a small smile. This would be his 41st conquest. 40 worlds had fallen before his fleet. 40 species had learned the simple truth that the Kellery Dominion did not ask for submission, it demanded it. "And their defenses?" he asked. Kress checked her displays. "Minimal, Admiral. Our long-range scouts reported scattered colonies throughout the system. Their largest settlement is on the third planet, they call it Earth. Population approximately 12 billion. Technology assessment places them at early interstellar capability. Fusion drives, basic energy weapons, primitive shield generators." "Primitive," Vorath repeated, savoring the word. He walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the distant yellow star. Somewhere around that star lived a species called humans. His scouts had observed them for months. They were small creatures, soft and fragile. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no scales, no venom. They had spread through their home system like insects, building stations and colonies on worlds that could barely support life. But they had not yet learned their place in the galaxy. They would learn today. "Admiral," the shout came from the sensor station. "We are detecting a vessel approaching our position." Vorath turned slowly. "A vessel? How many?" The sensor officer looked confused. He checked his readings again, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. "1, Admiral. A single ship." Silence fell across the bridge. Officers exchanged glances. Even Kress raised her head from her console, her expression showing disbelief. "1 ship," Vorath said flatly. "They send 1 ship to face my fleet." "Yes, Admiral. It is emerging from behind the 5th planet, the large gas giant. Trajectory analysis indicates it is heading directly toward us." Vorath walked to the tactical display. A holographic image of the approaching vessel appeared before him. It was small, so small that he almost laughed. The ship could not have been more than 200 meters in length. It looked like a child's toy compared to his flagship, which stretched 4 kilometers from bow to stern. "What class of vessel is this?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. The design does not match anything in our databases. Hull composition appears to be standard alloys. We are detecting conventional thrusters and a small reactor signature." "Weapons systems." The officer paused. "Weapons systems appear minimal, perhaps light point defense arrays." A low chuckle began to spread through the bridge. Vorath did not stop it. After traveling 3,000 light-years, after assembling the greatest fleet the Dominion had ever sent to a single system, the humans had sent 1 tiny ship to greet them. It was not an insult. It was not even a gesture of defiance. It was simply absurd. "Put the image on the main screen," Vorath ordered, "and broadcast it to the entire fleet. Let everyone see what we face." The small human ship appeared on screens throughout all 127 Kellery vessels. Soldiers stopped their work to look. Pilots in their fighter bays pointed and laughed. Engineers in the reactor rooms shook their heads in amazement. The humans were either completely insane or completely ignorant of what was about to happen to them. "Admiral," Kress said, "the human vessel is transmitting a communication signal. They wish to speak with us. How thoughtful of them." Vorath returned to his command position and settled into his chair. "Accept the transmission. Let us hear what this tiny ship has to say before we destroy it." The main screen flickered. The image of the human ship was replaced by the face of its commander. Vorath studied the creature with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. The human was female, at least. Vorath assumed so based on the scout reports about human biology. She had dark hair, cut short, and eyes the color of rich soil. Her face was calm and showed no emotion. She wore a uniform that was simple and dark, with few decorations or marks of rank. Behind her, Vorath could see a small bridge with only a handful of crew members. This was the defender of humanity. This single small creature in her single small ship. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Prometheus," the human said. Her voice was quiet and steady. "You have entered territory claimed by the Earth Union. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Vorath leaned forward in his chair. "I am Admiral Vorath of the Kellery Dominion 3rd Expansion Fleet. And you, small creature, are speaking to the commander of 127 warships. Your territory, as you call it, now belongs to the Dominion." The human's expression did not change. She simply looked at him as if he were a minor inconvenience, rather than the greatest threat her species had ever faced. "I see," she said. "And if we do not agree to this transfer of ownership?" Laughter erupted across the bridge. Vorath allowed it to continue for several seconds before raising his hand for silence. This human amused him. She had spirit, at least. It was almost a shame that she would have to die. "Your agreement is not required," Vorath said. "Your submission is inevitable. I offer you this one chance to surrender peacefully. Power down your weapons, lower your shields, and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be processed and assigned to labor duties. Your ship will be studied and then destroyed. Your world will be catalogued for resource extraction." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "This is not a negotiation, Captain. This is a statement of fact. The Kellery Dominion has conquered 40 worlds. We have never lost a battle. We have never shown mercy to those who resist. You cannot fight us. You cannot escape us. You can only accept what is about to happen." The human captain was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was unchanged, still quiet, still steady, as if she were discussing the weather rather than the fate of her entire species. "Admiral Vorath," she said, "I thank you for your honesty. Now I will offer you the same courtesy. You will leave this system. You will return to your own territory. And you will never threaten Earth or its people again." The bridge fell silent. Vorath felt his scales flush with heat. No one had ever spoken to him this way. No one had ever dared. "You threaten me?" he growled. "You alone in your pathetic little ship threaten the Kellery Dominion?" Captain Vasquez looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were calm and dark and absolutely certain. "No, Admiral," she said. "I am not threatening you. I am warning you. There is a difference." She reached forward and ended the transmission. Her face vanished from the screen, replaced once again by the image of her tiny ship hanging alone in the vastness of space. Vorath stared at the screen for a long time. Then he began to laugh. "Brave," he admitted. "Foolish, but brave. Signal the fleet. We begin the attack in 6 hours. I want that ship captured intact if possible. I would very much like to meet this Captain Vasquez face to face." The officers returned to their work. The fleet began to move into attack formation, and the small human ship simply waited, silent and still, like a single spark of light against an ocean of darkness. Captain Elena Vasquez sat alone in her quarters aboard the Prometheus. The room was small and simple, like everything else on the ship. A narrow bed, a metal desk, a single chair. On the desk sat a photograph in a worn frame, a younger Elena standing with her parents outside their home in Argentina, the mountains rising behind them like sleeping giants. She picked up the photograph and looked at it for a long moment. Her parents were gone now, taken by the same illness that had swept through South America 30 years ago. She had been 16 years old when she buried them. She had joined the military the following week. Now she was 53 years old, and she commanded the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever created. There was a soft knock at her door. "Enter," she said. Lieutenant Commander James Chen stepped into the room. He was her second in command, a quiet man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served with Elena for 20 years, through 3 wars and countless missions. He was the closest thing to family she had left. "The Kellery fleet is moving into attack formation," he reported. "They will be in weapons range in approximately 5 hours and 40 minutes. Elena nodded. She had expected this. Admiral Vorath did not seem like the type of man or creature who responded well to warnings. "And our status?" she asked. "All systems operational." The lance is fully charged and ready for deployment. Chen paused. The crew is nervous, Captain. Most of them have never seen combat. None of them have ever seen the lance fired. Neither have I, Elena admitted. She set down the photograph and stood up. We have tested it many times. We have seen what it can do. But we have never used it against an actual enemy. Do you think it will work? Elena looked at her old friend. There was fear in his eyes, not fear of death, but fear of failure. Fear that the weapon they carried would not be enough to save their world. It will work, she said. The question is whether we will need to use it. She walked past him and onto the bridge. The Prometheus was not a large ship, and the bridge reflected that. There were stations for only 8 crew members, each one responsible for multiple systems. The main view screen showed the Kellery fleet in the distance, a constellation of black shapes against the stars. Open a channel to the Kellery flagship, Elena ordered, as she took her seat. Channel open, Captain. Admiral Vorath's face appeared on the screen. He looked amused, as if he were watching a particularly entertaining performance. Captain Vasquez, he said, have you reconsidered my offer? Your time is running short. I have not reconsidered, Elena replied. I am contacting you to fulfill a legal obligation. Under Earth Union law, I am required to provide you with specific information before any military engagement. Vorath leaned back in his chair. How civilized. Please, proceed with your legal obligation. Elena's voice remained steady and calm. Admiral Vorath, you are hereby notified that this vessel, the UES Prometheus, is equipped with a weapon designated as a Casimir Lance. This weapon is classified as a strategic deterrent under Earth Union Military Code, Section 7, Article 12. Use of this weapon is authorized only in cases of extreme threat to Earth or its territories. She paused to let her words sink in. You and your fleet represent such a threat. I am therefore authorized to deploy the Casimir Lance, if you do not withdraw from this system within the designated time frame. You have been warned. The remaining time is 5 hours and 38 minutes. Vorath was silent for a moment. Then he turned to one of his officers and spoke in his own language. Elena could not understand the words, but she understood the tone. He was asking a question. The officer responded with what appeared to be a negative gesture. Vorath turned back to the screen. My tactical officers have scanned your vessel thoroughly, Captain. They do not detect any weapon system that matches the name you have provided. They do not detect any weapon system that poses a significant threat to this fleet. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. I believe you are bluffing. I am not bluffing, Admiral. Then explain this weapon to me. Tell me what a Casimir Lance is and how it functions. Perhaps then I will take your warning seriously. Elena considered the request. There were regulations against revealing classified military technology to foreign powers, but those regulations assumed a situation where secrecy might provide some advantage. Here, secrecy served no purpose. If the Kellery understood what they faced, they might choose to leave. If they did not understand, they would die. Very well, she said. I will explain. She stood up and walked closer to the view screen, as if she wanted Vorath to see her clearly. The Casimir Lance is based on a principle of physics that your species may not yet have discovered. In simple terms, the universe is not empty. What we call empty space is actually filled with energy quantum fluctuations that exist at the smallest possible scale. This energy is called zero-point energy. Vorath listened with a skeptical expression. Our scientists learned to manipulate this energy, Elena continued. They learned to create an imbalance, a point where the zero-point energy becomes unstable. When this instability is directed along a specific path, it creates a reaction that we call vacuum collapse. And what does this vacuum collapse do? Vorath asked. Elena met his eyes. It erases matter from existence, not destroys, not vaporizes, erases. Anything caught in the path of the lance simply ceases to be. There is no explosion. There is no debris. There is nothing left at all. Silence fell across the Kellery bridge. Elena could see officers exchanging uncertain glances, but Vorath's expression did not change. An impressive story, he said. But I have heard many impressive stories from many species. All of them are dust now. This is not a story, Admiral. This is a fact. Then prove it. Fire your weapon. Show me this. Vacuum collapse. Elena shook her head slowly. I will not demonstrate the lance for your entertainment. The energy required to charge it takes considerable time. I will not waste that energy on a display, but I will use it to defend my home. If you force me to. Vorath leaned forward. You speak of defending your home. Let me speak of mine. The Kalari Dominion spans 160 star systems. We have a population of 900 billion. Our military has never been defeated in battle. We have faced species that claimed to have ultimate weapons. We have faced species that warned us of terrible consequences. They are all gone now, Captain. All of them. Their worlds belong to us. Their people serve us. Their weapons are displayed in our museums as curiosities. He pointed at the view screen. You are one ship, one tiny ship, with one tiny crew. And you tell me that you can destroy my entire fleet with a single weapon? No, I do not believe you. I believe you are afraid. I believe you are stalling for time, hoping that reinforcements will arrive. I believe you are exactly what you appear to be, a desperate creature facing certain death. Elena's expression remained unchanged. Admiral, I have told you the truth. What you choose to believe is your own concern. But I will say this once more, clearly, so there can be no misunderstanding. She stepped closer to the screen. If you attack Earth, if you continue on your current course, if you do not leave this system within the time I have given you, I will fire the Casimir Lance, and when I do, you will understand exactly how serious this warning was. But by then, it will be too late for you. Vorath studied her face. For just a moment, Elena thought she saw something flicker in his yellow eyes, not fear. Exactly, but perhaps a small seed of doubt. Then it was gone. You have courage, Captain Vasquez, he said. I respect that. I will even honor it. When we capture your ship, I will not have you executed immediately. You will be brought before me, and I will give you the chance to explain why you thought your little toy could frighten the Kalari Dominion. And if I am telling the truth? Elena asked. Vorath smiled. Then we shall both find out together. End transmission. The screen went dark. Elena stood alone on her small bridge, surrounded by her small crew, facing an enemy that outnumbered her 127 to 1. She returned to her command chair and sat down. Maintain position, she ordered. Continue monitoring the enemy fleet, and begin final preparations for lance deployment. Chen stepped beside her. Captain, he said quietly, what if he is right? What if the lance does not work as expected? Elena looked at the stars on the view screen. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her world, everything she had sworn to protect. Then we will have tried, she said. And that is all anyone can do. The hours began to count down. The mess hall of the Kalari flagship was filled with laughter. Hundreds of soldiers gathered around display screens, watching recordings of Captain Vasquez's transmission. Someone had edited the footage, adding comic sound effects whenever the human captain made her warnings. Each time she mentioned the Casimir Lance, a cartoon explosion appeared on the screen, followed by the sound of a small creature squeaking. Lieutenant Kress did not join the laughter. She stood at the edge of the room, watching her fellow soldiers enjoy themselves, and she felt something cold settle in her chest. She had served under Admiral Vorath for 7 years. She had watched him conquer 12 worlds in that time. She had seen him face enemies with superior numbers, superior technology, and superior tactics. He had defeated them all. His confidence was not arrogance, it was the result of experience. He knew what he was capable of because he had proven it again and again. But something about the human captain bothered her. Kress had studied human psychology as part of her officer training. She understood fear and how it manifested in different species. She knew what desperation looked like. She had seen countless enemy commanders try to bluff their way out of certain defeat. Captain Vasquez had not looked desperate. She had not looked afraid. She had looked calm, patient, almost sad, as if she knew something terrible was about to happen and wished she could prevent it. Kress pushed the thought away. She was being foolish. The human was simply a good actor. Nothing more. She left the mess hall and made her way to the Tactical Analysis Center. A team of officers was studying every piece of data they had collected about the human ship. Their leader, a thin Kalari named Torvik, looked up as she entered. Lieutenant Kress, he said, have you come to review our findings? I have. What can you tell me about this, Casimir Lance? Torvik gestured to a holographic display of the Prometheus. The small human ship rotated slowly, its hull marked with sensor readings and technical annotations. We have conducted extensive scans of the human vessel, Torvik explained. Its construction is unremarkable. Standard hull plating, conventional propulsion systems, a small fusion reactor. We detected minor energy fluctuations along the central axis of the ship, but nothing that would indicate a weapon of significant power. What about the term Casimir Lance? Kress asked. Have you found any reference to it in captured databases? We have. Torvik pulled up a text document. The term Casimir refers to a human scientist who studied quantum physics in their 20th century. He discovered something called the Casimir effect, a phenomenon involving the energy of empty space. It is interesting from a scientific perspective but has no military applications. Kress frowned. The human captain claimed they weaponized this effect. She called it vacuum collapse, theoretically possible perhaps, but the energy required to create such a reaction would be enormous, far beyond what that small ship could generate. Even our largest power plants could not produce enough energy for such a weapon. So it is impossible? Torvik hesitated. I did not say impossible. I said beyond their capability. The humans are a young species. They achieved faster than light travel only within the last century. They do not have the scientific knowledge or the resources to develop a weapon of that magnitude. But if they did somehow develop it, then we would all be dead already. Torvik smiled. If the humans truly possessed a weapon that could erase matter from existence, they would not use it to defend a single system. They would use it to conquer the galaxy. No species willingly limits itself when it holds ultimate power. Kress nodded slowly. The logic was sound. And yet, thank you, Torvik, she said. Please continue your analysis and report any new findings. She left the tactical center and walked through the corridors of the flagship. The ship was preparing for battle. Weapons were being checked and loaded. Fighter pilots were reviewing attack patterns. Engineers were running final diagnostics on every system. Everyone was confident. Everyone expected an easy victory. Kress found herself standing before the main observation deck. Through the transparent walls, she could see the human ship in the distance, a tiny point of light against the endless darkness. Strange. Is it not? She turned to find Admiral Vorath standing beside her. She had not heard him approach. Admiral, she said, coming to attention. I did not see you. At ease, Lieutenant. Vorath gazed out at the stars. I asked if you found it strange. Found what strange, Admiral? Their strategy, or rather, their complete lack of strategy. He pointed toward the distant human ship. They send one vessel to face us. One. Not a diversionary force, not a reconnaissance probe. One ship, commanded by a single captain, who makes warnings that sound like they come from a military textbook. You believe they are hiding something? I believe they are strange creatures, these humans. Vorath clasped his hands behind his back. Our scouts reported them as primitive and weak. Their technology is inferior to ours. Their military is small and poorly equipped, and yet they did not run when we arrived. They did not surrender when I gave them the chance. They sent one ship to face 127, and that ship's captain spoke to me as if she were the one holding all the power. Kress felt her concern growing. Do you believe her warning, Admiral? Vorath was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. I believe she believes it. That is what troubles me. She was not performing for an audience. She was not trying to frighten me with empty threats. She was telling me, as clearly and simply as possible, that she could destroy my fleet, and she seemed disappointed that I did not take her seriously. Then perhaps we should reconsider our approach, Kress suggested carefully. We could send a smaller force first, test their defenses, see if this weapon is real. No. Vorath's voice hardened. If I show hesitation now, word will spread through the fleet. The soldiers will begin to doubt. Doubt leads to fear, and fear leads to defeat. He turned to face her directly. I have not survived 40 conquests by showing weakness, Lieutenant. Whatever weapon the humans think they have, it cannot stop 127 warships. Physics does not allow it. And if physics is not the limitation they face? Vorath smiled, not a cruel smile, but almost a sad one. Then I will have learned something new in the final moments of my life. But I do not believe that will happen. The humans are clever. They have created a story to frighten us, and they have found a captain who can tell that story convincingly. It is a good strategy for a weak species facing a stronger enemy, but it is still just a story. He turned and walked toward the exit. We attack in 2 hours, Lieutenant. Make sure the fleet is ready. Cress watched him go. Then she turned back to the observation window and stared at the tiny human ship. Across the void, aboard the Prometheus, Captain Vasquez sat in her command chair and watched the countdown timer on her console. 2 hours and 17 minutes remaining. The Kilari fleet is moving into final attack formation, Chen reported. All 127 vessels. They are not holding anything in reserve. They are confident, Vasquez observed. Or arrogant. Sometimes there is no difference. Vasquez stood and walked slowly around the bridge, looking at each of her crew members in turn. There were only 15 people aboard the Prometheus, 15 humans standing against an alien armada that numbered in the tens of thousands. I want all of you to listen carefully, she said. In 2 hours, we will face a choice. If the Kelari withdraw, we will let them go. We will not pursue. We will not attack. We will simply let them leave. And hope they never return. She paused. But if they continue their advance, if they choose to attack Earth, we will fire the lance. And when we do, many of them will die. Not because they are evil. Not because they deserve death. But because they refuse to believe what we told them. She looked at the view screen, at the wall of black warships approaching like a slow wave of darkness. I do not want to kill them, she said quietly. I want them to leave. I want them to understand that some things are not worth fighting for. That some enemies are not worth making. She turned back to her crew. But if I must kill them to save Earth, I will. And I will live with that decision for the rest of my life. The bridge was silent. Then Chen spoke. We are with you, Captain. Whatever happens. Vasquez nodded. Thank you, all of you. Now prepare for deployment. The waiting is almost over. 1 hour and 59 minutes remained on the clock. The Kilari fleet continued its advance, and the Prometheus waited, alone and patient, like a single candle burning in an endless night. The countdown reached 0. Captain Vasquez watched the numbers change on her display. 6 hours had passed since she issued her warning. The Kilari fleet had not stopped. It had not turned back. It had continued its steady advance toward Earth, and now the lead ships were entering weapons range. The deadline has passed, Chen said quietly. Yes. Vasquez's voice was calm, but there was a weight to it, the weight of knowing what was about to happen. Open a channel to the Kilari flagship. Channel open, Captain. Admiral Vorath's face appeared on the screen. He looked pleased, almost excited. Behind him, his bridge crew was preparing for battle. Weapons officers were activating targeting systems. Communications officers were coordinating with the rest of the fleet. Captain Vasquez, Vorath said, your time has expired. Do you wish to surrender now? Or shall we begin the demonstration of Kilari military superiority? Admiral Vorath, Vasquez replied. I gave you 6 hours to leave this system. Those 6 hours have passed. You have chosen to remain. I am now required to inform you that I will deploy the Casimir Lance in exactly 60 seconds. Vorath laughed. Still playing your games? Very well. I will give you your 60 seconds. My officers could use the entertainment. Vasquez did not respond to his mockery. She simply nodded to her crew. Begin deployment sequence. The Prometheus began to change. At first, the transformation was subtle. Small panels along the hull slid open, revealing crystalline structures that gleamed in the starlight. These crystals were not weapons in the traditional sense. They were focusing elements, designed to channel energy along precise paths. Then the larger panels opened. The entire spine of the Prometheus split apart, revealing a structure that ran the full length of the ship. It was made of a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, a darkness that was somehow deeper than the space around it. Aboard the Kilari flagship, sensor alarms began to sound. Admiral, a tactical officer shouted. The human vessel is undergoing some kind of transformation. We are detecting massive energy buildup along its central axis. Vorath stepped closer to the view screen. His smile faded slightly. What kind of energy? Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors cannot classify it. The readings do not match any known energy signature in our databases. Lieutenant Cress felt her blood run cold. She stared at the human ship on the display screen, watching as it opened itself like a flower made of shadows and crystal. Admiral, she said, we should raise shields. We should hold position, Vorath commanded. His voice was steady, but his eyes were fixed on the transforming ship. All vessels, hold position. This could still be a trick. On the Prometheus, Captain Vasquez watched her own displays. The lance was charging. Power readings climbed higher and higher, passing into ranges that the ship's computers could barely measure. 30 seconds to full deployment, Chen reported. All systems nominal. Targeting solution locked. Vasquez looked at the Kellery fleet on her view screen. 127 ships, tens of thousands of lives, soldiers and officers and engineers, beings with families, with hopes, with futures that were about to end. She thought about the photograph in her quarters. Her parents, smiling in the sunlight. They had taught her to value life, to seek peace, to find solutions that did not require violence. But they had also taught her to protect the innocent, to stand against those who would do harm, to make hard choices when no good choices existed. 20 seconds, Chen said. The energy readings continued to climb. Space around the Prometheus began to ripple like water disturbed by a stone. Stars in the background seemed to bend and stretch, their light distorted by forces that should not exist. On the Kellery flagship, panic was beginning to spread. Admiral, the readings are off the scale. We have never seen anything like this. All ships raise shields, Vorith ordered. Full power to defensive systems, but even as he gave the command, he knew it would not be enough. He could feel it, a wrongness in the fabric of reality, a pressure that pushed against his senses in ways he could not describe. The human captain had not been bluffing. The weapon was real. 10 seconds, Chen said. Vasquez stood from her command chair. She walked to the center of the bridge and looked at the view screen one final time. Admiral Voreth, she said, though the channel was no longer open. I am sorry. She sat back down. Fire. The Casimir lance activated. There was no sound. There was no flash of light. There was only a line of absolute darkness that extended from the Prometheus into the heart of the Kellery formation, a darkness so complete that it seemed to cut reality itself in two. The line touched the first Kellery ship. The ship did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, 400 meters of armored hull and advanced weaponry. The next moment there was nothing. Not debris, not energy signatures, not even an empty space where the ship had been. Just nothing. The line continued. It passed through the formation like a thread through fabric, touching ship after ship. Everything it touched was erased. Not destroyed, erased. Removed from the universe, as if it had never existed. Admiral Voreth had just enough time to see the darkness approaching his flagship. He had just enough time to understand that the human captain had told him the absolute truth. He opened his mouth to speak, to issue an order, to cry out, to say something that might be remembered. Then the darkness touched him, and he was gone. The lance closed. The line of absolute darkness contracted back into the Prometheus like a blade being sheathed. The crystalline structures folded inward. The panels slid back into place. Total elapsed time, 1.7 seconds. Silence fell across the Prometheus bridge. Chen stared at his displays, his face pale. The other crew members sat frozen at their stations, unable to speak. Report, Vasquez said. Her voice was quiet. Chen checked his readings 3 times before answering. His hands were shaking. 43 Kellery vessels destroyed, Captain. Including the flagship. He swallowed hard. Estimated casualties. 17,000. Vasquez closed her eyes. 17,000 lives. Gone in less than 2 seconds. And the remaining ships? 84 vessels still operational. They are not moving, Captain. They appear to be in complete disarray. We are detecting no organized communications between them. Vasquez opened her eyes. On the view screen, she could see the remaining Kellery ships drifting without purpose. Some had begun to turn away. Others simply held position, their crews too shocked to act. Open a channel to the surviving fleet, she ordered. All frequencies. Channel open, Captain. Vasquez stood. She looked at the view screen, at the broken remnants of the force that had threatened her world. Attention, Kellery vessels. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Prometheus. Admiral Voreth and 43 of your ships have been destroyed. You have witnessed the power of the Casimir lance. She paused, letting her words sink in. I do not wish to fire this weapon again. I do not wish to take any more lives. You came here to conquer Earth. You failed. But you can still go home. You can still return to your families, your worlds, your lives. She stepped closer to the screen. Leave this system. Return to Kellery space. Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them that humanity does not seek war. Tell them that we wish only to live in peace. But tell them also that we will defend our home with whatever force is necessary." She sat back down in her command chair. "You have been warned once. You have seen the result of ignoring that warning. I will not warn you again. Go home." She signaled for the channel to close. For a long moment, nothing happened. The Kalari ships continued to drift, their formations shattered, their command structure destroyed. Then, one by one, they began to move. The first ship turned and activated its hyperspace drive. Then another. Then 10 more. Within minutes, the entire surviving fleet was in motion, fleeing toward the edge of the system, as fast as their engines could carry them. Chen let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "They are leaving, Captain." "All of them." Vasquez nodded slowly. She did not feel victorious. She did not feel relieved. She felt only a deep, heavy sadness, the sadness of someone who had done a terrible thing for a necessary reason. "Set course for Earth," she said. "Standard speed. We need to report to command." "Yes, Captain." The Prometheus turned and began its long journey home. Behind it, the stars were silent and empty, as if they too were mourning what had been lost. Lieutenant Kress stood at the helm of the Kalari warship Vengeance. She was not supposed to be in command. She was third in the chain of authority aboard this vessel. But the captain had died of a heart attack when he witnessed the lance fire, and the first officer had simply walked off the bridge, muttering words that made no sense. So Kress commanded. She led the Vengeance away from the Sol system as fast as its engines could carry them, and she tried not to think about what she had seen. 43 ships, 17,000 soldiers, gone in less than 2 seconds. The human captain had told them the truth. She had explained exactly what would happen. She had given them 6 hours to leave, and they had laughed at her. Now Admiral Voreth was dead. His flagship was gone, not destroyed, but erased, as if it had never existed. There was no debris to recover. There were no bodies to honor. There was nothing left at all. Kress thought about the human's words. Vacuum collapse, the erasure of matter from existence. She had thought it was impossible. Torvik had told her it was impossible. They had all believed it was impossible. They had been wrong. The journey back to Kellery space took 3 weeks. During that time, Kress spoke with commanders from the other surviving ships. They shared their sensor data, their observations, their theories about what had happened. None of them could explain it. None of them could understand how a single small ship had destroyed nearly half their fleet in less than 2 seconds. When they finally reached the home system, the news had already spread. Other ships had sent messages ahead, and the story was known throughout the Dominion. The third expansion fleet, the largest military force the Kellerai had ever assembled, had been defeated by a single human vessel. Kress was summoned before the High Council. She stood in the Great Chamber, surrounded by the leaders of her civilization, and she told them everything. She told them about Captain Vasquez and her calm voice. She told them about the 6-hour warning that no one had taken seriously. She told them about the transformation of the Prometheus and the line of absolute darkness that had cut through their fleet like a blade through paper. The council listened in silence. When she finished, the High Counselor, an ancient Kalari named Sereth, spoke. "You are telling us," he said slowly, "that the humans possess a weapon that can erase matter from existence. A weapon mounted on a single small ship. A weapon that we cannot defend against." "Yes, High Counselor. And you are telling us that they warned Admiral Voreth, that they gave him the chance to retreat, that they explained exactly what would happen if he did not." "Yes, High Counselor." Sereth was silent for a long moment. Then he asked the question that everyone was thinking. "How many of these ships do they have?" Kress felt cold. She had asked herself the same question during the long journey home. "I do not know, High Counselor." The human captain implied that the Prometheus was a unique vessel, a strategic deterrent rather than a standard warship. "But I cannot confirm this. If they have one, they could have more." "Yes, High Counselor." Another council member spoke up. "We must respond. We cannot allow this attack to go unanswered. The honor of the Dominion demands—" "The honor of the Dominion demands nothing," Sereth interrupted. His voice was sharp. "Honor is for the living. 17,000 of our soldiers are dead or worse than dead, erased, removed from existence as if they never lived at all." He turned to Kress. "Lieutenant, in your judgment, could we defeat the humans in a war?" Kress considered the question carefully. We have superior numbers, High Counselor. We have more ships, more soldiers, more resources. In a conventional war, we would almost certainly prevail. But this would not be a conventional war. No. The humans have shown that they possess technology we do not understand and cannot counter. Even if the Prometheus is their only lance-equipped vessel, we do not know what other weapons they may have developed. We do not know what other surprises they may have prepared. She paused, remembering Captain Vasquez's face. The calm certainty, the quiet sadness. The human captain said something during her warning. Cress continued. She said the Casimir lance was developed decades ago. The humans created this weapon years before they encountered any other species. They built it because they asked themselves a simple question. What if the first aliens they met were not friendly? The council chamber was silent. They were ready for us, Cress said. They were ready before they even knew we existed. And we have no way of knowing what else they built while they were waiting. High Counselor Sareth nodded slowly. Lieutenant Cress, you have done the Dominion a great service by surviving to tell us this story. You will be promoted to commander and given a position in our strategic planning division. Your experience will be valuable as we decide how to proceed. Thank you, High Counselor. The council will now deliberate. You are dismissed. Cress left the chamber. Behind her, the leaders of the Kellery Dominion began to discuss their options, but she already knew what they would decide. They had no choice. The Dominion would not attack Earth. Not now. Perhaps not ever. In the weeks that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about the tiny human ship that had faced 127 warships alone. They heard about the captain who had given a 6-hour warning that no one believed. They heard about the weapon that erased matter from existence, and they began to wonder. The humans had seemed so small, so weak, so primitive. Their territory was tiny compared to the great empires that spanned thousands of star systems. Their technology had seemed decades behind the most advanced civilizations, but they had built the Casimir lance. They had created a weapon that could destroy fleets in seconds, and they had done it before they even knew that other species existed. What else had they built? What other weapons were hidden on that unremarkable little world, orbiting that unremarkable yellow star? What would happen to the next species that threatened them? Some civilizations responded by strengthening their defenses. They developed new shields, new weapons, new tactics that might provide some protection against the human technology. Others responded by sending diplomatic missions. They offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, treaties of friendship and mutual support. If the humans were going to be powerful, better to be their friends than their enemies. A few species simply avoided the entire region. They marked human space on their navigation charts with warnings. Here be danger. Here be death. Here be something we do not understand. And in the Sol system, life continued. Captain Elena Vasquez returned to Earth a hero, though she did not feel like one. She gave her report to military command. She answered questions from scientists and politicians and journalists. She told the same story again and again until the words lost all meaning. Then she retired. She bought a small house in the mountains of Argentina, not far from where she had grown up. She planted a garden. She watched the sun rise each morning and the sunset each evening. She tried to find peace. Sometimes, late at night, she would dream about the Kalari fleet. She would see the line of darkness extending from her ship. She would see the vessels disappearing one by one. She would hear the silence that followed, the terrible, empty silence of 17,000 lives ending in an instant. She never regretted her choice. The Kellery would have killed billions. They would have enslaved her entire species. She had done what was necessary to protect her home, but she never forgot the weight of it. The terrible responsibility of holding so much death in her hands. One evening, as she sat on her porch watching the stars emerge, she received a visitor. Lieutenant Commander James Chen, her old friend and second in command, walked up the mountain path and took a seat beside her. The council has announced their decision, he said, and no further Casimir lances will be built. The Prometheus will remain the only one. It will be kept in reserve, a last defense in case of extreme threat. Vasquez nodded. Good. One is enough. One is already too many. They sat in silence for a while, watching the darkness deepen. Do you think they will come back? Chen asked. The Kellery? Or someone else? Vasquez looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, countless civilizations were looking back. Some with fear, some with respect, some with curiosity about the strange, small creatures from the unremarkable yellow star. Maybe, she said, someday, when they forget what we showed them, when they convince themselves that it cannot happen to them, and when they come, Vasquez smiled a small, sad smile, then we will warn them. We will give them every chance to turn back. We will tell them the truth about what we can do. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. And, if they do not listen, we will make them understand. Above her, the stars burned on in silence. They had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched species emerge from darkness only to fade away again. Now they watched humanity. The small species from the small world, the builders of impossible weapons, the quiet voices that spoke warnings no one believed until it was too late. The galaxy was learning a simple truth. Some worlds are better left alone. And in the mountains of Argentina, an old soldier slept peacefully beneath an ocean of stars, dreaming of peace.